I think Shiver said he was going to pay me in cats.
Hello, everyone.
Well, Shiver doesn't have a cat.
Shiver doesn't have a cat. Hey, everyone.
Like a cat.
Hello. Welcome.
Welcome.
Budget Edition.
Welcome to Budget Edition. We should be live. I'm gonna wait and see if there's any catastrophic failures. Sound works.
Catastrophic failures.
Yes, catastrophic. Okay, we should be live. Hello, welcome to Inside the Verse Budget Edition number 4. My name is David. I am a procedurally generated pile of logs. Beside me is Mr. Shiver Bathory, a procedurally generated antelope's nest. Below him is Nakara, a procedurally generated, fully automated, sometimes animated, often celebrated, integrated half-ton barrel of trout.
That's me.
Beside him is Nitro Typat, our guest, who is a procedurally generated procedural generation system.
Yes.
In case you can't tell, today's intro has a theme.
What is it?
Each of those intros started with a B.
That's interesting.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I'll take
I
your
liked
word for it.
INNside.
Does this mean we get honey at the end of the stream?
Yes. Yes, it does. So, how's everyone today?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
Pretty
Procedurally
good,
generated.
pretty good. Yeah, very procedurally generated. It's a procedurally generated kind of day.
I need more liquor to be doing this. I apologize. So let's,
Yeah, work on that, eh?
we're going to be talking about a few things today. We should probably start with some Star Citizen news, because this was actually a pretty good week in Star Citizen.
Why?
Well, 2.5 hit the PTU for everyone, which was good. And people have been trying it, and apparently, according to Sunjammer over on INN, there are more frames now. I have not tested yet myself, but
in the
apparently,
H update.
yeah, apparently there are more frames.
Just to clarify that they're still limiting you to 30 FPS max on Crusader. He was just getting more than 9.
Yes.
Oh! I wonder if I
Which
get
did
more
you
than...
notice?
I wonder if I get more than 15 now.
That's the hope. There are apparently more frames, which is good news. But I want to talk a little bit about this week's Around the Verse, because... Yeah, behind the scenes this week was NPCs, and does anyone else really like Tony Zurvak?
Me?
I do.
He's amazing. Well, honestly, he's one of the fundamental parts of this entire
Yes.
deal.
Oh yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 people, and he's one of them.
Yeah, and at the same time, Reverse the Verse he was on Reverse the Verse, and I tried to transcribe him, and oh my god. The
man's passion.
I love his passion. I just wish he'd slow down a tiny bit in talking, because he talks like a machine gun.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Yeah, he's got a lot. When he's talking, he's got a lot to say.
Well, the problem is, it's all interesting. Every single word that comes out of his mouth is like, oh.
I'm not sure how many people remember this, but before INN started, just shortly before, there was a holiday live stream, so it's the 2014 one. And he had a segment where he talked for about 20 minutes straight. It was a 4.5-hour live stream, and that 20-minute segment took me like a day and a half.
Yep.
Took me forever.
Anyway, so he talked a bit, he and, the Around the Verse talked a bit about NPCs this week, and when we're going to be getting NPCs, which is in 2.7, which is later this year.
First wave of...
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I air a little bit of concern about this?
Yes, that's what I want to hear.
He said late 2016.
Yeah.
Now, my issue with that is I was I've always been kind of hoping that they would put it on at least Evocati in October, so that they could get it out by the end of the year, because it's going to require a massive amount of playtesting, because it's just such a huge patch. I'm kind of hoping they don't end up on Evocati in December. You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree.
That would suck.
Part of me wonders. So, what if it releases at goes live to everyone during their December thing, which they do every year, even though we all know that they should not do it, but they do it every time, right? Could it be because maybe Squadron 42 will come out before then, and they're not going to want to overrun Squadron with 2.7?
Maybe, but honestly, I'm sort of at the point now where I kind of don't think Squadron's going to be before the end of the year. I don't think it's far out, but I'm wondering. Put it that way.
It might be on a very early PT release in December-ish, end of December.
Squadron 42 won't go to alpha or beta.
Oh, really?
It'll go. They've already said
It's going live directly.
It's only going to be released in a final game setting, so it needs to be completely done.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, there can't be any movement bugs. There can't be any flying bugs. There can't be any dialogue bugs. You see where I'm going here. So I think just for the sake of it being polished, I think we might end up seeing it sometime early next year.
Now, they did talk about, the first wave of NPCs aren't going to talk a lot, but eventually they want to have NPCs have dynamic schedules. So during the day, they're filled with shoppers. During the night, they're filled with entertainers, yada, yada, yada. Does that sound kind of like Elder Scrolls? What Elder Scrolls has tried and kind of failed to do every single time?
Yes. It's exactly what they've tried and failed to do. The question is whether Tony Zervek can design a better AI system than Bethesda can, or Bethesda, however you say it.
Bethesda.
It's one of those things. It sounds really good. A lot of like a lot of things in games, it all comes down to execution. The idea is spectacular, and I'm actually really excited to see what he can do, because his idea for the AI is incredible. It really is. The whole thing with, well, basically his idea is to make the universe come to life by using NPCs to make them have their own lives in the game.
Yeah.
It should be a little bit more fluid than the Elder Scrolls series, Morrowind onwards, where it gets to 5 o'clock, all the shops shut, everyone comes out, everyone goes to bed, march in some weird synchronization. But the way that Foundry 42 Germany was saying that they're constructing it is, rather than just NPC has task A to do it, just go there. This is more like, you need to accomplish this task. If this happens on the way, you can do this or this, then you can do this or this, then you can do this or this, which is a very interesting way to do it.
And I think that it needs to be done that way, because the problem with the Elder Scrolls is that it very quickly becomes not believable anymore, because the NPCs are always doing the same thing in the same order every day. You know what game does it really well, and what game actually I felt had a living world, was Witcher 3.
Oh yeah.
That world feels alive. There's tons of NPCs. They're all doing various different tasks in the fields and stuff. Or in the city, there's all sorts of different people, from the harlots on the street to the to bartenders and patrons and a million other things. That world feels alive to me, and it was probably the first one that truly did. So I think that they should take some cues from CD Projekt Red.
So, what I kind of want to know what to each of you think, what makes you think that NPCs are more alive than? Like, what to you would make the NPCs seem alive? What do CIG have to get across with
Stop
their
trying
NPCs?
to walk through a wall or stupid little things like that, which still happen to this day.
And to be fair, like even in Witcher 3, it has some pretty noticeable AI bugs, but it still wasn't enough to diminish that feeling, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think I think honestly the thing that does it is the variety of tasks. They need to. So for example, if you have an NPC who's a pirate, right? I don't want them to go to the same place every day and attack the same ships.
Right.
You know, I want them to be a pirate. I want them to go and hunt for cargo ships, not in the same place. Just targets of opportunity. And I don't want them to behave the exact same way in combat. I want them to be able to react to what's happening. That's sort of my definition. Just variety of behaviors.
What do you think,
What do
Nitro?
you guys think?
I think that like their conversations need to be like very contextual. Like they can't really talk about anything at any point in time. They like you kind of got to catch them at the right time. Like I mean, if they have you go do a mission or whatever, then you can come back and be like, oh hey, while you're doing that, I did the mission for you. But it shouldn't be like, oh well, I mean, I can't really think of a very good example, but a lot of NPCs, no matter what time of day you go and talk to them, they always have the same conversation options. And I really think that if the options were different depending on what they were doing at the time, it'd be really nice, and it would be less repetitive.
You do a mission for someone, and then you walk into their house late at night, and they're asleep, and you wake them up, and you.
And they're like, dude, what are you doing in my house? Instead of, oh, nice, you did that
Exactly.
mission for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's something, it's the next level for AI, and I think that they can get there. They have the resources, and they have the commitment to doing it. They want to have this like 20 million or whatever AI in the universe,
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Now they also
it's not like 500 or 1,000.
No.
20 million.
They also talked a tiny bit about crew AI and crew members, which aren't going to come in 2016. But you will be able to hire crew members, kind of like Pokemon.
Kind of.
Gotta collect them all.
They
Well,
Go out with a net, catch them, and
Yes.
drag them back to your
And
ship.
throw balls at them.
Yeah.
What you do with them when they're on your ship is your own business.
You throw balls at them.
No, actually I like the idea with the crew NPC. It is kind of it's an interesting way that they're turning it into a management game where you will need to manage your crew, and I think that that's really and develop them, and that you have to go to different places to find the best crew.
Have any of you three
a good idea.
played Star Trek Online since they introduced their, I think they called it, duty officer system?
I played it once. I played it a couple times a long time ago.
That was quite interesting. I mean, it was basically you had a set of cards which represented officers, and you sent them off on assignments, and they came back. It was a little bit kind of like Fallout 4's settler system, where you could send people off to do stuff, but less visual. Hopefully, Star System will be like a next step above that, because you'll be seeing your crew respond to things and actually feel alive, rather than just 24/7 your crew is just standing there not saying anything until spoken to, which is a bit weird.
That's an important aspect for them too. Is they need to make sure that with the NPC crew, they need to adapt to their surroundings. So if they're in a ship, they should go to their bed and lay down and go to sleep. If there's nothing happening, you don't want them to just sit there at their station all the time, because it doesn't make them feel real. And I think their most difficult task is going to be getting the AI to be able to do the pilot job without driving the player insane.
Mm-hmm.
like having the pilot actually having a pilot NPC that's good enough that they actually do what you want them to do, rather than just being annoying and messing up your mission. You know what I mean?
Now, normally I don't take questions until the second half of the show, but this is the next thing I wanted to talk about, the NPC anyway. So Zeus and Oxyus said, can you give us your opinion on CIG not letting you assign NPCs to run your ships unless you are on board or they're escorting you? I know a lot of people with a lot of ships who plan to send them out to get profits and bring in profits, and apparently they're rather upset right now.
They've never committed to it.
Nope.
And they always
Yeah.
they always sounded pretty dubious about it because it can create severe imbalances in gameplay.
The only
If you
things...
go back to the old Wingman's hangar, I can't remember the dude's name now. I apologize so much. Not Wingman himself. The dude who was helping him out, Rob something. He would always specifically saying, "We don't want you earning money when you're not even in the game."
Right.
So
Even
I don't know why it's a shock.
they even they've often said if you're not present, they're pretty dubious about letting you have your ships doing things. They were talking about possibly allowing them to accompany you. So you might be flying the Starfarer and you might have 3 of your Hornets with your hired pilots helping you.
That's
I don't
all
know where
they've
they're gonna-
ever talked about.
That's all they've ever talked about, yeah. And I don't know where they're going to land on that. I assume they may just be at a no because they want
I
the
think
players
they're
to
still going to
control
support
ships.
that. Like, you'll be able to hire people to guard you. If you're a transport ship, you will be able to hire people to guard you, but it's not even necessarily going to be your NPCs in your ships. You're going to be hiring people to guard you. So it's a different set of NPCs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You will be able to hire guards, but you won't be able to, have 400 hulls and send them all out. I think that turns it too much into Eve.
Yeah.
And
Because you can essentially just sit in your office while a bunch of ships go out and do stuff for you, and then you're like, cool, NPCs, thanks. Go do this now.
Yeah.
Whereas this way, it's like, oh, I have to go out and I have to supervise them.
And I know most people don't pay attention to all of the things CIG say, but there are many, many places that you can ask these questions, and they've said it before that they do not want it feeling like a spreadsheet. They don't want it feeling like Eve. And you can ask them in reverse the verse. You can ask us. You can ask any number of people. So any of the people that have tons of ships and this was their plan, and they never asked anyone, can I do this in game? I think that's their own fault.
Mhm.
Sorry, guys, but
Honestly, your fleet of ships is to allow you different options.
your
when
fleet
you're
of
playing.
ships is to support the game.
Well, it is, but its personal value to you in the game will be as a bunch of different options and different things that you can do.
No, I'm glad they've basically said that will not happen, because I don't think it would have been balanced.
And I actually like the way he approached it because he also said that it takes their focus off of their primary game design because it's actually not an easy thing to do. And it just isn't. It changes what the game is, and they just aren't interested.
Well, and the thing he was saying was he doesn't want the game to be a roll of the dice.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just sending your crewmen off and this is a 3 danger out of 10, and you're rolling the dice, and it's like, well, it was a 3 danger. How come he failed? Oh, he rolled bad. It's not fun. There's no...
Well, and part of the problem with that is that they've already said that they want a game that is based on skill. There is no skill involved there.
Yep. And you know what? Sorry, I say it's not fun. I actually enjoy that too. There are some games that I love doing that in, but that is not what Star Citizen is supposed to be about. If you want to do that kind of management of a fleet, there are other games for you. Star Citizen is not the one.
I particularly recommend X3 Terran Conflict.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's my favorite game.
It's really old, but it is literally that.
So, I want to move on to talk a bit about procedural stuff. But Nakara, did you have some kind of news you wanted to talk about?
So, I was struggling for a topic for my edutainment section this week, and David here came to me and mentioned that maybe we could talk about exoplanets. Specifically, what kind of planets exist. And I was going to take it one direction, and then something happened today that made me take an entirely different direction. This isn't going to be a long segment, but I want to talk about something that has happened.
For those of you wondering, we are now into the edutainment portion.
Yes.
Edutainment.
It was announced yesterday. This was an announcement of an announcement. However, many people know, but some don't, that the closest star to our own star is actually a binary. It's Alpha Centauri and Proxima Centauri. They're 4 light years away, the closest stars to Earth. The European Southern Observatory is going to be announcing at the end of August that they have found an Earth-like planet in the green zone of Proxima Centauri, which means that the closest star to our solar system has a planet that's likely to support life.
Lizard life.
Where's
The
next?
coolest part of that is that it's something we could legitimately actually explore in another star system in the relatively near future.
Relatively near being like several hundred years.
Well, it's an interesting side note. There's an effort currently underway called Operation Starshot, that is headed by Stephen Hawking. And it is going to be an effort in about 20 years to send a fleet of tiny probes to Alpha Centauri and Proxima Centauri.
Using solar sails?
Yes, huge solar sails and lasers from the ground, which will actually power them.
Yep.
They
That's
think
cool.
they actually think they can get them up to almost 40% of the speed of light.
Shoot giant lasers at a swarm of little tiny... Ah!
Yep.
Yeah.
And the actual spacecraft will be about the size of a cell phone, and will have similar capabilities to a cell phone. So it'll have a camera, and it'll have a processor and communications and all that. And they're gonna send a ton of them, probably a dozen, and basically hope that some of them get there. But they'll be able to send them pretty quickly, so they would be able to get there in under 20 years. So there's a chance we might actually get some kind of a look at that star system within our lifetimes.
So
So,
we might actually
pretty
know
cool.
if there's life on another planet within our lives.
It's
So let me get this straight.
Possible.
They're going to blast a load of phones at a planet, and
With
they're going to
lasers.
hope that the first call that they pick up isn't going to be like, I'm ringing up about your long distance service. Are you satisfied with it?
Oh, shiver.
and yeah, our holiday asks, so you're saying in 40 or so years we might see the first discovery of life. It is possible, yes. Operation Starshot isn't just a complete speculation. It actually has $100 million behind it.
They actually did a test of the precursor to it. They tested their solar sail last year, I think.
The light sail has tested
Yeah.
solar sails, and there's a Japanese spacecraft as well that tested solar sails successfully.
Yeah.
They work well. Tilu asks how long would information take. Information actually travels at the speed of light, so it would take 4 years to get here from there.
Yeah. Which is why it's
Which-
so exciting that this is the closest star. Like this is as close as it gets.
Because we've found other Earth-like planets, but they're far away, and
Yeah.
we can't even reasonably fathom to get there. This one's right on our doorstep.
Now,
And-
with this announcement that there's a planet, a potentially viable life planet, do you think they'll get more funding for this?
I think that it will. I personally think if they can confirm it, and especially if yes, I think so. Specifically because in 2018 the James Webb Space Telescope is being launched. It is
Yep.
the successor to Hubble and by far the best space telescope ever constructed. It will be able to
Fun
take
fact.
it will actually be able to take a picture of this planet.
Fun fact:
So,
I actually got to visit the place where the James Webb Telescope was being built, and I got to see the room that it was being built in.
That's so cool.
I know. I have a T-shirt with it on there that I bought from there. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
The perks of being an engineering student.
It's kind of an amazing thing to talk about, but the James Webb will actually be able to directly image planets up to 25 light years away. So this planet, it should be able to actually take a decent image of, and we actually should get good information about it. I think that you could see a huge upswell in support.
We live in exciting times.
We do, and you know, it's. I was going to take this in a totally different direction and explain how we can detect planets around other stars, but this announcement was sort of. It's huge. It's. I don't think it's getting as much play as it probably should. The actual formal announcement will probably get more play, but basically, you know, there's a planet that's about the same size as Earth in the habitable zone of the closest star to Earth. You know,
That's huge.
It's a big.
That's
yeah, it is. It's enormous news. And the thing is, it was kind of confusing because for a long time, you know, we found almost 3,500 confirmed exoplanets around other stars, but never one around Proxima Alpha Centauri, and it's the closest one. And I personally was kind of wondering. I'm like, well, if we haven't found it, is there anything even there? So the fact that there is huge. It actually gives us a target. It gives us an interstellar target for the first time. So I think that propulsion research will see a huge boost because we need to figure out a way to get there.
Yeah, that's.
And I think I'm gonna wrap it up there because we have tons of Star Citizen stuff to talk about. So.
Quick.
Well,
whatever happened to ion engines?
They're actually in active use. NASA loves them, because you can constantly thrust with them.
Mm-hmm.
In Shiver, I know you're just having a hard time restraining yourself there, but
Yeah, contain your excitement there, Shiver.
I'm not an ion engine. I'm all right.
But they really like them, but they don't provide a lot of thrust. So getting places quickly isn't their deal. Their deal is they can go faster on really, really long distance missions, and they also have the ability to break orbit, whereas we haven't had that capability before.
We actually recently had the first ship that broke orbit and went to another, didn't we? Yeah.
So that was the NASA's Dawn spacecraft, and it orbited Vesta, which is a very large asteroid, and then it broke orbit from Vesta and visited Ceres, which is where it has stayed. And it actually would be capable of breaking orbit from Ceres and going somewhere else, but Ceres is so interesting that they're going to leave it there.
So interesting.
And it was the first spacecraft to ever break orbit of a body and go to a different one. And it's because it has ion engines. It still has 40% of its fuel left. You know, it's their ion engines are exciting, but I don't think they're the solution to get us to Proxima Centauri. We need things like nuclear-powered spacecraft. Things with a lot more power, because all that we get is like solar panels and RTGs right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think getting over our fear of launching a bigger power source is one of the things that we need to figure out.
Now,
Fusion would really help.
Yes. Now I want to take us to something that's not quite Star Citizen, but is still extremely related. No Man's Sky.
Never heard of it.
It came out this week. There's been a ton of talk about it. I'm not going to talk about whether it's good or not, or there's a lot of things I'm not going to talk about. I'll talk about those after INNside, because I'm going to stream some No Man's Sky after Inside the Verse. What I want to talk about is actually their procedural generation, because as we know, Star Citizen is going to be procedurally generating planets. No Man's Sky procedurally generates planets. Have any of you guys played it?
No, not yet.
Little bit.
Little bit? Okay.
I've
40
watched a
minutes
lot of
worth, if
gameplay
that.
for it.
Brybase, yes, I will be doing a review of No Man's Sky. Here's the thing. No Man's Sky is really interesting. I'll go into more detail about why it's interesting another time. But when it comes to the planets are actually decently procedurally generated, even if there's not too much variety between them. My biggest problem, and the thing that Star Citizen has to not do, is when it comes to a planet, you've basically got two states. You're landed on the planet. As soon as you take off from the planet, you're sent like 20, 50 kilometers into the air, and you're stuck there. You cannot fly near the planet's surface. You're landed, you're in midair, or you're flying out of the planet, out of the atmo and into space. There is no close to planet flight. Star Citizen can't do that. Nakara, you've lost voice.
Well, I was just saying that we already know they're not doing that.
Yes.
Their initial design right away was you can fly straight down to the planet's surface and land. There's no transition whatsoever.
Yeah.
However, continue.
No, it's just I think the interesting thing about No Man's Sky is lots and lots and lots of people have looked at Star Citizen and they've said, I don't want to support it, it's crowdfunded, I don't trust it, yada yada yada. And I think a lot of people looked to No Man's Sky and said, this game, with all the hype that it's getting, this does all the things that I want in a game. It lets me explore, it lets me collect and trade and mine and kill and fight and everything. And I think its hype was built up way too much. I think it's still a good game that got too much hype for what it was worth.
I think its big downfall is its price point.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think, honestly, I really think that this is a time right now where everyone in the Star Citizen community has to we all have to sit down and think and slow down what we do and slow down our ferocity, if you will, because there are a lot of people that are looking for something that they didn't get in No Man's Sky.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to make them aware that, well, there's a game that'll do that for you.
Yeah, of course. And I kind of feel bad for Hello Games because I think that they set out to make this game and they were a little unsure about it, and they've even talked about that, how they were on the verge of canceling it. But then it got such a good reception, and then Sony jumped on board, and Sony was funding it, and I think it just kind of got out of hand on them. And also, I think once Sony was involved, they couldn't push it back because they have a publisher.
I think Sony was the problem here. Having the publisher is kind of what killed them.
And they needed another year and and the game to be $40 instead of $60.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's kind of sad. I actually think it'll be a fine game, but not a great game. I might just buy it and play it just for the hell of it.
Here's the thing. I
I kind of wish I could buy it at
Less?
50% off.
Yeah. Here's the thing. So far, I've put maybe 2 or 3 hours into it. I think it's a fine game. I think it is actually quite fun for what it is. Yeah, it's a
But
fine
a lot
game.
a lot of people went into it thinking it was something it wasn't.
A lot of people went into it thinking it was. A lot of people honestly seemed to go into it thinking it was Star Citizen. Seriously, thinking there would be, extreme amounts of exploration and, extreme variety in all the life, and everything would be so different and unique. And no, it's basically Spore.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of
And
that,
a few weeks ago, I was on a show called. I was doing Casting Beef with Shiver here, and I talked about this exact same subject. My beef then was that I didn't think that No Man's Sky would be able to pull off the procedural generation to a satisfactory degree. It's not possible to have 18 quintillion interesting planets.
Yep.
It just doesn't work. The reason why Star Citizen is limited to 100 star systems is that they actually want to take time with the artists and build each planet. Even now, they're talking, like, the procedural generation in Star Citizen is creating the actual body itself and some of the features, but like when they were talking about creating the ecosystems, they were talking about creating ecosystems that the designers and the artists can paint onto the surface that create these, environments. So each planet will be overseen by an artist and a technical designer. It's not this pure procedural generation, which tends to output stale and plain things that, the first 10 planets are interesting, but then they're all the same after that.
right? Because as good as procedural generation looks on paper, it's all down to patterns, and those patterns become very, very recognizable. I mean, look at Minecraft. Minecraft was cool at the beginning because it was like, oh man, look at all these unique things that happens. But I mean, after a while, it was like, oh yeah, that's a cool mountain.
The thing with Minecraft was it had the building,
Right.
the construction.
I honestly,
Huge
I
thing
honestly
that
think-
No Man's Sky is missing, actually.
yeah, I was gonna say if No Man's Sky had a building aspect of some kind, it would probably be the next Minecraft.
Yep.
It's
one of the main things that's missing from that game.
Honestly, it sounds like they've got really big plans to bring a lot of these kinds of things to the game in the future.
Should have
but-
happened before release.
It should have, yeah. It's
to
really
interrupt you,
unfortunate.
Alex.
No. It's really unfortunate that they didn't get it to before release. And again, it's because they have a publisher. And I know that a lot of people are really angry at Star Citizen all the time for not having released yet. And I'm sorry, but you know what happens when you release early? You know what happens when you release before your game is done? Look at No Man's Sky.
And Elite Dangerous. They're both the same.
Yep. Elite Dangerous,
They-
it launched with nothing. And it's
Nothing in it.
slowly adding more of a game. But they added console support before they added an actual game to it.
And not only that, but they also asked people for that extra content to make it actually a playable game. They asked people to pay another double the price.
I think it's really important that people understand that I don't think Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky are bad games.
They're just okay games. That's
The
problem.
difference
think-
is Star Citizen is trying to take the time to be a great game, not an okay game.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people went into No Man's Sky expecting, if I want to do combat, I expect the combat to have as much depth as the crafting system, as much depth as this, and it's an exploration game. It's just sit back, look at the well, not sit back, but it's not as survival as DayZ. It's not as crafty as Minecraft. It's exploration focused.
And
You know,
I've
go there, have a look.
Now,
The
this is actually... Sorry, go ahead.
problem with the biggest problem with No Man's Sky is that its only redeeming feature is exploration, and it's too repetitive. People get sick and tired of it after they've visited their 10th planet.
Now, this is actually something I literally just asked Nakara to look into and write it, or not Nakara. God, sorry, I looked up and saw Nakara, and sorry, this is something I literally just talked to Shiver about writing an article about. Shiver, just leave me alone. Is exactly, you think about a 18 quintillion planet, 18 quintillion procedurally generated planets, and you think, oh my god, there's so much to explore. The human race couldn't do it all in 7 years, whatever. How much is there to explore in Star Citizen? And this is something that I've asked Shiver to look into and write about, because, yeah, there aren't going to be that many planets, but there's still,
They're
what,
going to be more interesting.
There's going to be, 100 systems at, let's say, an average of between 4 and 6 planets per system.
The interesting thing with Star Citizen is they're actually going into the depth of having dwarf planets and asteroids and asteroid belts and other phenomenon as well. But even so, let's say you have 100 let's say there's 500 planets.
Yep.
Nice round number. The entire surface of every planet is explorable, but the biggest thing for me and the biggest thing for Star Citizen is that the space is big.
Yep.
Space is not big in a lot of these games. They purposefully make it small, and I don't think that's a good thing.
Keep in mind, though, even in Star Citizen, space is scaled down. Space is going to feel big in Star Citizen. It's just important to remember that in real life, space is 20 times bigger. Space is big.
Really big.
Like the star system,
like Shiver's mom big.
They've said their star systems and the star systems in Star Citizen are going to be about 5 to 15 AU, which it means 5 to 15 times the distance of the Earth from the sun. Basically huge. And the thing is, with things like jump points and with comets and asteroid belts and radiation belts and nebulae and all that stuff, you will need to go just venture out there and explore them and try and find stuff. The biggest thing is with jump points, and the thing that I really want them to do is I want them to not tell anybody they're there, like the undiscovered ones, and I want them to be hard to find, where you have to go and look every every nook and cranny, of the system, and it will be this gigantic, huge community event when you find one. And yeah, when they add them to the game, I want them to just not tell anyone they're there, and it would create this incredible exploration gameplay.
Yep,
I think.
So that's about all I had for pre-decided discussion topics this week. I think it's time for questions. Any objections?
No.
Nope. Although I might jump in as I always do.
Well, yeah, that's...
I mean, I did want to mention one of the coolest things in No Man's Sky is the procedural animal generation, like the weird spore creatures. I don't know if anybody saw it, but I posted a link to a GIF that I found the other day of this giant monster that had little itty bitty butterfly wings. And it was just hovering off the ground. It's great.
I loved that. Like, it doesn't.
I loved it too.
It's not really like honestly, so far all of the animals that I've seen kind of look the same, but I haven't seen many different planets. But like, that little butterfly thing is so cool. The one complaint I do have about No Man's Sky, actually, though, since I just remembered it, is that I've visited 4 planets so far. All 4 planets have had life. What happened? What happened to dead planets?
That's also total note here. Something important in Star Citizen: barren worlds need to be common.
Yeah.
They can still have interesting gameplay, but they don't need to have life. They should have
Therein
crazy,
lies the challenge of barren planets. How do you make a barren planet different from another barren planet from another one
Different-
Yeah.
without
different types
repeating
of
yourself too
resources.
much.
Resources and geological features.
That's another thing. In
Mhm.
No Man's Sky, every single planet seems to have the same resources because you always need the same resources to get off it. Let's go to questions. Brybase asks, how do you think they'll manage so much dialogue for NPCs? An army of voice actors, modulating voices in post-production, text in some places to cut it down?
An army of voice actors. That's how CD Projekt Red did it.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think actually a long time ago, there will be a lot of NPCs with an army of voice actors, and lots of that stuff will, I mean, you'll probably start hearing the same voice actors over and over again. But when you take jobs from like a job board, lots of the jobs I think are text only. I think they,
Yeah.
So
There's a few ways around it as well. If you've
They
got
could,
job things, you can have a text-to-speech program pretending to be a computer voice, and therefore
Yeah.
you don't need to record new lines of dialogue.
or they could go the Gearbox software route and just have people that work at the company do a few lines here and there.
yeah,
Yeah, from what I heard of with CD Projekt Red, they basically just over the whole life of the development, they just had tons of voice actors. They would just hire people to come in and read a few lines and here and there, and you just end up with this gigantic library. And I think that's one of the ways to go. And then I also think Shiver's idea is good.
yeah.
And the third idea I think is good is to have, because a lot of the jobs will just be on a job board and will be provided in that manner, that's perfectly fine. It just sucks when you go and talk to an NPC and his mouth is moving and all that comes up is text.
Yeah. Tilu asks, do you think we'll find handcrafted places made by artists on planets years after the release?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think,
Um,
well, maybe not necessarily that we'll find ones made originally years after release. I think there will be a lot of little, like, tidbits added, but I think the important thing to remember is Star Citizen is not, it's not like it's going to stagnate after release. The entire plan is for it to release and for CIG to continue adding content. So yeah, I think 3 years after release, there will be a new thing added on this place that you've never been before, and you scan for it and find it, right?
And I feel like if they gave us all like everything out of the gate, that it wouldn't take very long for everybody to discover pretty much everything, because we've got almost 1 million different people, and they all go in different directions.
Yeah.
It's not like it's
Everyone and their dog's got a carrot to go exploring in, so they're going to provide for that.
They've already talked about having exploration content will scale to the explorers and will constantly replenish.
Yep.
Don't forget the plan with jump points, which was a really good idea of, it's not just so much you discover it, you've discovered it for like a month and then it becomes unstable and it's moved and you've got to find it again. That was quite a good idea to repeat the content in that way.
Yeah.
It's a living thing, right? It needs to be replotted again, and in some cases it will even move. Yeah. And you're like, you're gonna have that great moment where you fly to the same place that it's always been, and you're like, where the hell?
Yep. Zeus Anoxia asks, how do you feel the introduction of Star Marine will affect how many people actively play in the universe?
It won't.
It will.
My
don't-
reason for that is I don't think the game is stable enough, unless it is in Star Marine. I mean, it is in Arena Commander, but I think stability is a big issue.
I think stability is a big issue, but like I don't really play Star Citizen much right now because I'm not one for ship fighting. I am not a good pilot. Even thinking back to things like Freelancer, I was a trader. I'd get cargo and fly it to the next. That's what I enjoyed. I don't really I don't play Arena Commander because and Shiver can attest to this. I suck. I suck. But put me in an FPS.
Oh yeah, I can't wait till Star Marine hits.
Less.
I'll pretty much be playing Star Marine
Yeah.
all the time.
And I know a lot of my friends actually who bought in on Star Citizen. Like I've got a friend who bought in the same time as me during the Kickstarter, hasn't paid any attention to the game since. And he's also going to start playing once Star Marine comes because he likes first-person shooters as well. Like that's, yeah.
It'll be actually I like the idea of Star Marine 2 because if they can narrow down the experience enough that they can make it stable, like Arena Commander is mostly stable, it would be a good gameplay experience. Crusader is a bit of a problem because people go into it and they try and do something and the game crashes all the time.
Yep.
Just trying to get it in group.
But yeah, it's very difficult. Shall we continue on with...
Hayes07 asks, how much larger do you think CIG's studio staff will get?
They're scaling the staff to their income, so it won't grow much larger than it is, I don't think, unless their income significantly increases. What I think they're kind of relying on here, and it's going to be an interesting thing to see, I think they're going to push push Squadron 42 really hard. I think they're going to launch it like you would launch a normal AAA game.
Yeah.
And they're going to use the proceeds of that to expand their PU team. Because they've already said before, they need to hire an army of technical artists to build out these planets.
Yep.
And so, I think if they make $50 million off of Squadron 42, it will really help.
Yeah. Zeus Anoxia asks, hopefully we should be able to buy ships with Alpha UEC not too long from now. When this is implemented, should we be able to use Alpha UEC to purchase limited sales ships like the Super Hornet, M50, and Vanguard? And if CIG refuses to let us buy limited ships with AUAC, will this bring back pay-to-win discussions? Everything CIG does will bring back pay-to-win discussions because people are dumb, and that's literally the only thing they ever discuss. Period.
I hope people understand that people are going to freak out because they wipe Alpha UEC and all the purchases made with it all the time. People got to understand that that's happening because they're going to go and grind for 100,000 Alpha UEC and then buy a Vanguard, and then 3 days later it's going to get wiped.
I got slightly perturbed because I had saved up for all the weapons. I bought all the weapons. I bought a new spacesuit, and a couple days later, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get on and play it. It was all wiped. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to keep it in mind that anything you do is just sort of temporary until we get to beta at least.
Yep. Which, honestly, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, people can say pay to win, but there's no winning yet.
Exactly. Well, and honestly, I firmly believe in Star Citizen. There's never really winning.
Yeah.
Which is part of one of the reasons the discussion is kind of moot, because
how do you win?
There are people in Star Citizen who will play Star Citizen who really their deepest desire is to be the best Aurora pilot in the verse, and it will cost them $45 to buy the game, and they will never buy another ship. They'll never need another ship.
And then you have people
Ships are very specialized.
Yeah, and then you have
every ship has its own use, and some person might only ever want to use that ship.
Then you have people like Jake, whose goal is to own every ship.
Yeah,
I know a few people like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
If the theory is the more money you pay for a ship, then you've won the game, does that mean that Hulley owners have won the game?
No, of course not.
Because I mean, this Vanguard, which is cheaper, is going to blow that up.
I don't care about how much money I spend. My goal in the game isn't even to be the best pilot at anything. I want to, continue INN. That's my in-game goal at this point, right? So there is no winning.
Just see Eris putting around in his little news van Reliant.
Yeah. Well, no, my Endeavor, because my Endeavor is going to turn into a news base with Reliance that I can send out, and they will bring me the news, and I will distribute.
We'll have this gigantic.
He's going to be like the architect in the Matrix.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to just be surrounded by TVs.
Or that guy in Mass Effect.
Or the what's his name in Serenity.
Yes. That
Yeah, you know what I mean.
yeah. Tilu asks, new commercial promoting Star Marine and 2.6 at Gamescom. Am I the only one missing ships commercials? You are not the only one missing ships commercials, but there won't be a ships commercial until the Tally ship commercial, and that probably won't be done until all the cinematics for Squadron 42 are done, because Squadron 42 cinematics take precedent. The older ships commercials were actually done in order to start training up the cinematics team so that they could do the cinematics for Squadron 42.
do miss
By the
them.
way,
we do miss
we
them.
haven't mentioned this at all in this show. First of all, I want to say how amazing the new F7A looks, and
Yes.
how
Yes.
great a job Chris Smith did on it. And that like few seconds we get at the end with 2 F7A Mark IIs flying over a procedural planet, and then there's the Anvil logo, and I'm like, I want another 60 seconds of that,
Yeah.
please.
The F7A Mark II is not on my least favorite ship list.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Black Cobalt 001 asks, will ship designs change based on race, or will CIG keep the same human ship designs? Different alien races already have different ships. There's the Banu Merchantman, there's the various Vandul, the
Jean
Scythe and the
Cartual.
Blade, there's the Jean Cartual. We're going to be getting the Tavaran Prowler soon. There's actually a whole...
Reliance a hybrid.
Yeah, the Reliance a
Mhm.
hybrid. Technically, the Freelancer is also a hybrid. It uses Xeon
The
technology as well.
MIS.
Actually, basically
specifically.
all MISC
MISC,
ships
yeah.
are partial hybrids. Also, we have seen some shots also of the Xi'an cargo vessel, which is just enormous.
Yes.
Like unimaginably large.
Brybase asks, anyone in PTU, what do you think of the Reliant?
I
I
like
love
it.
it.
I like it. It's good.
Yeah, I can't complain.
I
Enjoy
have not
flying.
downloaded PTU yet because I have to work on a No Man's Sky review.
I was
keep
trying to
downloading
find.
the PTU and then it gets patched.
Yeah.
I actually really like the updated visuals in 2.5, but they need to tone down the bloom a little bit.
Yep.
No, I don't want it to go away because I like the effect, but it's just too much right now.
I talked about this a little bit this morning on the base, but have you been in the troop transport Argo yet?
No.
Oh, the floor lights. The floor lights are blinding. They're
Really?
so blinding. Yeah.
The bloom goes crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, overall, when you're in the game, it looks
Hmm.
significantly better after this patch. And the frame rate didn't completely tank, so that's nice.
So, Doom Centurion asks, so what do you make of the comments about potentially keeping something from Squadron 42? Will good Squadron 42 ending let you keep the F7A?
Nope.
I hope not.
You will not. Your
You'll
ships
get a
you
model of the ship at the end.
A
You
man
saved
can
Earth,
dream,
you
can't
saved
he?
humanity. Here's a model.
Well, actually, they've answered this question before.
Mhm.
They've said, okay, you go join the army. Did they let you keep a tank at the end?
Yep.
No.
What you
Um,
might get, and not necessarily for doing a good ending, but what you might get is contacts. People that you know from Squadron 42 that you can go and talk to after, and maybe you can do some illicit deals with them for something, but you're not going to leave with a Hornet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They've opened up a lot of possibilities to encourage people to get the citizenship or at least have the ex-military experience, because you could have options when you go to a shop and say, if you haven't been in the military, you can't get this semi-automatic 9mm plasma rifle. You can only have
Totally.
you can only have this one with an orange tip that fires BB guns.
Sorry, a new beer appeared in front of me because I have the best girlfriend ever. And she brings me beer during streams.
She's pretty cool.
Yeah. Zeus Anoxia asks, at what point in development do you expect CIG to redirect most income from game sales to direct most income from game sales from development to profit?
Never.
No.
They will keep. I mean, the nice thing with the way they've built the game, they have 120 some odd million dollars. They haven't had to take on much or any debt. I think there's probably some, but most of it's just you know, complicated financials of a large company. They don't have a significant amount of debt. I think that their goal basically is to keep the company at
Do they have
just
shareholders
even
or anything?
balance. No,
No.
Yeah,
they're a private
so-
company.
they're completely private. They just have to keep the company at like literally an even balance sheet.
They're
and I think
worried
that's
about
what they will do.
they're worried about getting people paid, not about making
Yeah.
profit.
They're really interested in having a games company that has 300 employees. That's
Yeah.
what they're interested in doing. That doesn't go under.
Yeah. And that keeps that for decades.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And like they're talking about Star Citizen as a 20-year project. Like this is not the reason it takes so long is it's not a thing that you play for 2 weeks and then you never touch again, you know?
Yeah.
It's much more like World of Warcraft where a lot of players like me and like some of my good friends have been playing since 2004. And like I don't play it all the time, but you know, once a year I'll go and play it for a couple months or once every 2 years and I'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll be more frequent than that, but you know what I mean? Like the game will go on and we'll have lots of people playing it for many, many, many years.
Doom Centurion question. On the subject of bloom and glare, why don't they implement visor darkening for helmets?
That'd be cool. I also think that we need some sliders in our graphics menu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just they're playing around with visual effects, right? I don't care. It looks better than it did before. The next patch, it will look better than it does now.
Keep in
Just wanna
mind,
turn off motion blur.
keep in mind, the things we're seeing in verse right now still aren't seemingly up to the fidelity that they want. Because if you look at the Idris, the downed Idris from last week, the week before,
Yep.
that wasn't even at the visual fidelity that they want in the game, and we're not seeing that in the verse yet. So there's a lot more visual fidelity to come, but lots of that is post. It's after stuff, which means that it's going to wait until after they,
The only
fix
thing
the
is
engine.
They need to have all of that stuff in place for Squadron 42.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you're going to see a lot of it start to come online, and the reason it's coming online now is they have to launch a finished game in 6 months.
Yep. We've actually run out of questions now, so I'm going to go get my whip and start hitting people until you ask some more questions. In the meantime...
I was unaware it was that sort of show.
Oh, it is. It is. Coming straight to your house,
Do
Shiver.
you want me to go
I'm
grab
gonna
some
sit in
stuff out of the
my Spider-Man
Carpathia?
outfit.
One of the things I wanted to mention is that I'm really excited for Chris Smith to redo the 300 series. I think it's
Yeah.
The 300 of
it's the least touched of all the ships, and I think that it is one of the coolest ships in the game.
I have always, and
Can't wait.
even with all of the ships I have, and I've got quite a few ships, I still want a 315p. I have always wanted a 315p. I'm always going to want a 315p.
It was the first ship I ever bought, and it is still one of my favorite ships because it is so awesome. I love it, and I can't wait for it to get some love.
Yeah, when I bought into Star Citizen, it was between the Hornet and one of the 300 series. And I ended up going the Hornet, but...
I want to go into this game for exploration, for mining, for salvage, for, trading and stuff. And the 315p just looks like I want to go off on my own and explore, and this is what I want to do it in. This little tiny, just sleek and fast and pew.
Got no toilet.
You can just stick
Anything's
your
a
butt out the
toilet if
door.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Just go out the window.
And I've got another question.
So we've actually got a few. Hayes07 asks, does INN have their own org, and what is it called? We do have an org. It's called INN, but we're not going to be doing much with the org until there's more to do with orgs. Right now,
You haven't even added me to it.
yeah, we have a news site to run. Orgs, we'll deal with that
Only
down the
that.
road.
They
As
approved
far,
it.
as
Straight
far
away.
as I'm concerned, the INN org will always be, and I apologize for anyone who'd like to join it, but the INN org will always be just staff.
Yep. If you want to
Um,
join
'cause-
INN and write for INN,
Yes.
then you can be part of the org. But
Can I join and not do any writing?
You could try the transcription team, led by Canadian Syrup, Sunjammer, Stormy. Next, Desmarius helps out, and they do
Silence
some hard bread
sometimes?
and butter work. Silence sometimes helps out. Eris helps out sometimes.
I do reverse the
Trying to
verse.
flip it.
There's always more people are really needed.
Yes,
or
we always need
sought
more
I
for
did
transcripts.
transcription team.
I just like hanging out and stealing all your guys' snacks.
I don't have any snacks. I just have beer. Brybase asks, can you tell us about INN's Gamescom coverage? What's the plan? I actually can tell you a little bit about INN's Gamescom coverage. Now, as you know, Gamescom starts on Wednesday. We do actually have a contributor that will be on the floor. He's someone that just joined up to INN, essentially because he's going to Gamescom and can cover it for us. His name is Des Owl. So he will be doing live floor coverage. At the same time, Mr. Schiffer Bathory and Mr. Nixt will be, watching all of the live streams to make sure that if anything is covered, that they will be posting it up on INN. We're probably going to have a stickied post for all content Gamescom. So everything Gamescom will go into this one post, and it'll kind of be, added on to as we go. For the Friday party show, right now our plan is to, on this very same channel, have a pre-stream and have basically an hour pre-stream where we talk about, the week and what we hope to see during the show and just chat and dick around, because why not? Then we will likely host the official stream so that you don't have to go into the official CIG Twitch, which is, hounded by 10,000 people and you can't say anything. Come in to our Twitch, chat, hang out, and then we will have a post stream where we talk about the stuff that happened. Of course, at the end of every day, Des Owl will have write-ups with any interviews and things he manages to see or hear or whatever. There. Did I miss anything, Shiver?
I think you got everything. I've got a question. You know the INN org?
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
How do you spell that?
No idea.
Okay.
I think there's an I and two N's.
What's the order?
NNI.
NNI, okay, yeah.
Brybase,
It have been NIN. Yeah.
Brybase
made that
asks...
Network Imperial News?
Yeah.
No, 9-inch nails, man.
Yeah,
Oh.
what Nitro said.
Networks
So-
and
Nine-inch
Imperial
news.
News. Brybase asks, what do you make of the new landing scheme in 2.5?
I haven't got to try it yet.
Neither have I.
Haven't tried it yet.
I
'cause-
got close to Grim Hex and somebody shot me and killed me.
I got close to a station and I crashed. Like, the game crashed.
Our Holiday asks, do you believe it's physically possible to achieve overkill in Star Citizen? Example, taking 3 Idri, I'm calling them Idri, to capture a bounty target. I do believe it's overkill.
But that's
take,
the best kind of kill.
Take a Bengal and use its railgun to destroy an Aurora. That is the definition of overkill.
Yes.
And it will happen because of test.
Yep.
And there will be video of it because of test.
Yes.
So, we actually have a question from one of our staff,
Yes.
Stormy Winters. She asks, what motherships would an Argo fit into? It's another one of these fitting questions.
We
Idris.
don't know. Because CIG haven't
Idris
told
comes with
us.
one.
So the Idris, certainly.
And the Javelin, I think?
It'll be in the Javelin, it'll be in the
Yes.
Bengal, all the capital ships, but it would probably also fit... I think first thing somebody's going to try is to fit an Argo into a Caterpillar.
It's
Yeah.
gonna go with the
Or a Starfarer.
Pirates.
It would almost definitely fit in an Endeavor.
It
I would
doesn't fit in the Starfarer. I've
It
seen
doesn't
people
fit in the
try.
Starfarer?
No,
No,
people
I've
have
seen
tried.
people try.
The Polaris, it definitely would fit into it, I think. So any of the capital ships.
It would fit in an Endeavor because an Endeavor fits almost everything.
Doesn't it feel like 2 cutlasses?
Yeah, Cutlass Reds. Yeah, it should be just fine in an Endeavor as well. It's big enough. I'm a little surprised it doesn't fit through the doorway of the Starfarer. It'd be interesting to see if they can fit inside the Caterpillar.
I think the oil tanks that are right by the door are too close to each other, so that it can't get like up, and the engines get stuck on the tanks.
Now, here's something I want to mention that doesn't really have to do with INN. CIG, Robert Space Industries, whatever, they've recently revamped their Friday newsletter. Now, if you ignored their Friday newsletter forever because their Friday newsletter used to suck, then good on you because their Friday newsletter used to suck. But their new Friday newsletter is actually really good, and it includes new sneak peeks. Now, remember what?
There was a Friday's newsletter?
Yes, there are Friday. You can sign up for a Friday newsletter over on robertspaceindustrials.com. And if you remember back to Around the Verse, the previous season of Around the Verse, they do like the sneak peek was an image. That image sneak peek is now in this newsletter, and this week's is an in-game render of the Dragonfly, and it looks saucy.
Space bike.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
It looks good. So I would suggest you sign up for that newsletter because it's good now. That's what I'm trying to say. And I know that I say this basically every time I do a transcript and at the top of all of our transcripts and all the time, but watch their shows. If you read INN transcripts for Around the Verse, Reverse the Verse and stuff, that's great. We love you for it, but honestly watch the shows because the shows do a much better job of explaining what's actually going on than we do.
I was a bit sad that like the new ATV format is like produces shorter episodes, but it honestly feels like they have a lot more information packed in there, and the episodes feel like they go on for a lot longer. And I've been enjoying them over the last couple weeks.
I feel the same about the Reverse the Verse. Actually, I really miss listening to and getting to watch the community team hang out because honestly, they're a bunch of hilarious people and I love them all. But man, Reverse the Verse gets good info now. It's a trade-off that I'm actually really sad that they had to make because I miss seeing the people because I feel like we've seen a lot of people come and go from Star Citizen, and I feel like lots of the people that are there because they love the game and they love what they're doing. And that's just fun to see. It's fun to see people working on something that you're passionate about and see that they actually enjoy each other's company.
Yeah.
You mean actual like real people work at CIG?
No, they're all drones. They're all doctors.
Like 300 of them. Actually, it was pretty interesting to see that they're expanding the Frankfurt office.
They keep expanding.
Isn't that increasing by 25-50%?
Yeah, about 50% increase in staff there.
It's almost like those Germans do good work.
It's almost
it's
like
very
that.
interesting, though, don't you
They're
think? Because they are
efficient.
concentrating on the engine, and they need some more staff. So, what the hell are they doing to that engine?
One of the things we know they're doing that they haven't talked a lot about recently, but they're actually completely refactoring CryEngine to be not only DirectX 12 and Vulkan compatible, but to utilize DirectX 12 and Vulkan to the highest extent possible for a game engine.
Yeah.
They are rewriting the renderer in CryEngine, which is a huge job.
CryEngine
is big.
Was not built for what Star Citizen is doing. Period.
Nope.
It was
works
built
really well as a base, but they have had to build a lot onto it.
That's why it's now called Star Engine.
In the community, yes.
In the community, yes, but yeah. Still not a single new question, which is disappointing.
We're disappointed in you.
Yeah.
We need more questions.
Everyone in chat's all talking to each other like I care what they're
I've got
talking
one.
about. What's your question, Shiver?
Nitro, what are you hoping to do in the verse?
That's a good question, Shiver.
Well,
Thank you.
I want to fix ships. Like, there are those people that want to collect every ship and own every ship. I want to learn each ship inside and out. I want to be able to be like, oh, that's a Reliant. That means that the engine needs this kind of power converter, whatever thing. Because I mean, right now we don't really have that kind of information because no sort of engineering is implemented yet. But engineering is like the thing I'm looking forward to the most.
On a ship or setting up shop on planet?
I actually own an Endeavor, and it's going to be my floating traveling repair shop / tune-up shop. I've got the Super Collider tuning ring along with the underslung hanger. So
I think you can get cream for that.
yep.
So Red Ghost 9 asks, how do you think NPC conversations will be handled? We kind of got a brief look at that, didn't we?
It's got that.
Very
It's called the inner thought system, and basically when you walk up to something or someone just in like midair with no text box or anything, just in midair, the options for what you want to say to them are basically displayed as thoughts in your head, and you can select which one you want to go with. That's how it's handled.
If you've ever played Wing Commander 4, it's exactly the same.
And it doesn't just
is.
include conversation
Well, it
thoughts,
was.
right? It's
was-
supposed to include actions as well, like
Oh yeah,
it's
throw
gonna be
water
tied to
on
the
person.
piping system.
Yeah.
That would,
Wherever-
I mean,
Mhm.
that we saw was just a placeholder. Yeah, it's got to be just a placeholder.
What I wanted to mention was that it not only will be the entire conversation system with NPCs, it will also be your interaction system with everything in the game.
Yeah.
That use button will eventually
Oh, God,
go away and
thank
be
you.
replaced.
But it's
with
supposed to
something
go
useful.
away soon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, they've
yes,
been talking about it for a
but-
while.
when soon is, I'm not really sure. I would say probably
2.7.
2.7. Yeah, I'd say
And-
2.7.
The thing I'm surprised more people don't talk about is like in that same video where we got to preview the interaction system and stuff like that, the window being shot at and then broken, and then the air being depressurized and everything being sucked towards the wall before the emergency blast door closed. I'm surprised more people haven't talked about that.
It's
Like
so
that's
good.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
and they've
go
said
ahead.
they were saying this in conjunction with the Idris thing, and it's something that no one really, I don't think anyone realizes the extent of what they're doing there. In that, like, you'll have a puncture in a window somewhere, and everything in the room will be drawn towards that puncture. That's not insignificant. No games
Mhm.
really do that, because
And it wasn't like most video games where it's like, oh, I shot a window and it immediately shattered.
yeah,
No, it was more like I shot the window, it cracked, and then we sat there for a few seconds and we heard it starting to crack more and more, and then finally it broke and depressurized.
they're doing
And-
amazing stuff.
you know, all that whole volumetric particle system that they talked about with the crashed Idris on
Yeah.
the planet, all of that smoke and all of the steam and all of that are actual particles in the air, and if you depressurize an area through like a crack or something, everything will get sucked towards that, even all those little particles of smoke and everything.
And that's
So
So
you're gonna get
cool.
some
It's insane.
incredible scenes in derelict
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
spacecraft.
Just taking a lot
yeah.
of like things that I've only ever seen Armor do
yeah,
and
Mhm.
move it up a notch.
move
know,
it to something
responding to
playable.
Basically, Arma has really good ideas, but they're super rough.
Yes,
And Star Citizen is the type of game that can take that same idea and polish it.
because yeah.
Um,
So I want to move on to, we got quite a few questions, so I want to start answering some of them before we're done. Eddie the Gamer Ghoul says, what will you produce for news when the PU starts up? What goals and such? Honestly, the goals are a lot of just keep people abreast of the big things happening in the verse. We're going to have reporters covering Operation Pitchfork, for example. You know, on the
I
front
still need to
lines.
sign up for that.
You do. Everyone does. Everyone should sign up for Operation Pitchfork. This is an advertisement for Operation Pitchfork. But, you know, covering Operation Pitchfork, covering, you know, we want to be there when Test crashes a Bengal into a sun.
And if there's no
Yeah,
news,
totally.
we'll make it up.
Yes.
Man, can you imagine the community's outrage when one of the most ridiculously difficult ships to get in the game, they're just like, we'll crash into the star.
But that's what we want to film. That's what we want to be there and cover, because that's hilarious.
It's like those people that go out and buy like the new iPads the day they
And then
come out,
smash 'em.
just to smash them.
Yep.
Just to smash them with the sledgehammer.
I like Test for that very reason. Black Cobalt 001 question: how much freedom will be given to players interacting with planets compared to freedom in space? I think planets, but not sure. I don't really know.
Technically, on the technical side, there's no reason there should be any invisible walls on a procedure-generated planet.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There
I don't
should
think
be
that-
no.
There won't be walls anywhere, really.
The only
Unless
thing
it's a
is,
city planet.
I think that on city planets they're gonna have some artificial control over what you can do, because it gets too messy. I think what they're gonna do is have an in-lore reason why you can only land in certain spots. Like ArcCorp controls their airspace and it only lets you land automatically on these platforms. It's way too difficult to do a factory or a city planet that is completely procedural and you can go anywhere.
It would be a vast playing area because you're dealing with a third dimension as well as just
Yeah.
the planet's surface, aren't you?
Exactly. It's just not. I think those planets they're going to have to treat differently. But a planet, for example, like Microtech is a good example. Most of the surface is barren, but it has like research stations and stuff on it. That can be a completely procedural world, and you can like venture on foot if you want from research station to research station.
Zeus Anoxia has one that we kind of just touched on. How do you think CIG will deal with collisions of large, capital-sized ships with other stationary objects like space stations and comm arrays? Imagine ships like an
That's
Idris
interesting.
colliding with an Idris crashing into Port Olisar.
Yeah, would
I wanna see it
Port
happen.
Olisar move?
That
I
would
have-
be really cool.
I have a feeling they both break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to see if you'll be able to destroy. I don't think you'll be able to destroy those kind of installations because it's just not.
You might not be allowed
Yeah,
because
they-
It breaks
it's
the
game breaking. Yeah.
You might be able to with some that are further out of the frontier, but I suppose otherwise, what would be stopping someone with their Idris or whatever going to
Force
shoot
field.
in the persistent universe?
Force field.
Mm.
Just like there are certain things that they've already said
Game
that
magic.
they're gonna have to gamify. They can't really get around. I mean, sound in space, that is game, right? There shouldn't be sound in space, but there is because it makes it a better game. So there are things like that it's just not going to make sense to allow you to crash an Idris into it.
Speaking of which, I'm going to give a quick shout out here. Everything we've heard from the sound in Star Citizen has been incredible, including the music.
Actually,
Huge shout out to Pedro.
I want to give an apology here to all of the sound teams entirely. Often in things like the monthly reports and stuff, we basically skip the sound design reports because the stuff they're talking about is so technical and so detailed that we can't really summarize it well. And I apologize for that because their work is immensely important. It just doesn't read well.
Mhm.
Our
I actually
holiday.
noticed that because I did actually summarize one of the audio sections in the most recent one.
Yeah.
And honestly, you end up almost copying exactly what they're saying.
You
because
can't.
There's
you
no
can't
way
summarize
to
it.
condense it.
Yep.
You can't condense it at all.
Our holiday asks, on what scale do you think base building will be? A tiny outpost with some storage, a large fortress to base out of with dozens of pads, pre-made buildings to capture, prefab construction, etc.
Pre-made buildings to capture at the start. Sorry if I jumped on that.
That's
but
good.
I had an answer immediately. They've already said long term they want to do some pretty significant things if they get the time and the resources. like allowing players to colonize worlds and stuff.
Yep.
But I think that the initial thing will be we'll be able to capture some bases.
Yeah, because I mean, the way they build stations and stuff like that now is, it's all like, it's sections that
Yeah.
they can kind of just put together. It wouldn't surprise me if later on you see something along the lines of, I don't know, space engineers, where you're on a planet, you take these pre-fabricated sections and they slot together, and then you just kind of take materials and build them up.
Yeah, and I could see like you have to manufacture each of those sections, right?
Yeah.
And then you can transport them to the planet and then build something, and it can be this huge org project. I could definitely see that happening. Yeah.
So one last question before we'll start to run down here. Carbide Edge asks, are you guys going to try and provide live coverage of Operation Pitchfork? Yes.
I'll be there.
We are going to try and provide live coverage. I'm sure dozens of people will stream it. We're going to have to wait and see what kind of tools are offered in-game for this. But yeah, we're going to cover it, whether it's, even to the point of just covering all of the streamers that will be covering it, covering the ways you can watch it. We're going to cover it somehow. We'll probably write articles about, the effect that it has on the game. We're going to do something.
I'm going to be a part of it. I'm going to be trying to. I think at least a few of us will have our reliance. We'll do some recording.
Yep.
Of the events. We'll do everything we can. We're not really sure what journalism is going to look like in the game, but we'll do everything that we are capable of doing.
There's a reason we're keeping things kind of small right now, is we just don't know what INN is going to need in the game,
or
because
be.
It's not built yet.
Nope. And it's. I have to say, it was. I don't know if we were specifically thought of, or it was a general thing for the community. But having a news van ship that is the same, and the Reliant is our colors.
Shiver, do you want to weigh in on this,
cool.
on the colors?
When we went for a tour in Manchester, the first thing that we were asked was, so what do you think of the Reliant? It's in INN blue.
The Reliant is INN blue. So thank you, CIG, for that, because it actually
Awesome.
it actually means a hell of a lot. It's
And that there is a news van in the game, like that is, like that might actually allow us to do what we've wanted to do.
Yeah.
And
I want to say it wasn't just us. I mean, we've become the largest people that do it, but
it's a big community.
It's a big community, but I mean, Citizen Star did it before us, and like lots of people have done this before. We've just been the longest around, but it's
And there'll be other news organizations. The game's going to be huge. The game is going to be huge. We will do the best we can to cover our bit of it.
Yep. So with that, we're coming to just about the end. Shiver, what do you got coming up this week?
Gamescom stuff, that would be next tonight. We are starting that Wednesday with this. Is it Wednesday the stream start?
Wednesday. And keep an eye out for all of Des Owl's coverage as well.
The party is the Friday night. We'll be covering the live stream of that with a live blog as well. That'll be up on imperialnews.network. In addition to that, it's the usual postcard from Event Horizon with my friend Nitro, wherever he is. We do the funnies. That's midnight Thursday, or however you want to look at it. Let's call it 2300 UTC Wednesday at the base.sc.
Mr. Nakara?
And, I quite enjoy being part of that show. Working on some long-term projects. I'm really itching to get some articles written. I have one percolating in my head, but I think I'm going to wait till after Gamescom. Basically, I would like to, since we haven't done this in a long time, I would like to talk about the state of the game.
Yes,
It would probably be a pretty long article. I might write that in my narcotic-fueled haze after surgery.
Do it. And everyone give some good wishes out to Nakara for his upcoming surgery too.
Oh, thank you.
Which we'll let you know when it happens. But
yeah.
break a leg. Not literally, though.
Fix your legs, please.
Really sucked to break a leg before surgery.
Yes.
Or after surgery.
During surgery. What happened?
How about you, Nitro? What do you got?
I do the Spartan Hour, and I think it's called the Spartan Hour and a bit now because I always go longer than an hour. I think my show was 2 hours today. On Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern and 3 o'clock UTC. I think that's about right. And we just play music and talk about Star Citizen news, graciously provided by you guys to help kind of go over it. I've been filling in the Friday night show news slot a bit while the Friday night show's been gone. So, and then of course I do postcards with Shiver on Wednesdays, which is always a lot of fun. And Nakara when he wears his nice pretty dress.
I'm there with my beard and my dress.
Yep.
We had Eris as the inflatable co-pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I am an
I missed
inflatable
that. I'm
co-pilot.
sad.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
There's actually a question for you in chat there, Shiver.
There is no podcast download, but it is repeated after the Star Citizen base roundtable, which is Sundays.
Which I
is that
still haven't
9
been
o'clock
on.
UTC that starts.
I should be on that
I
someday.
don't remember.
You should be on that actually.
I should. So with that, we are, I mean, I guess we're done for the week. That's Inside the Verse. If any of you want to watch some No Man's Sky, I will be back on this channel in 5 or 10 minutes as soon as I can figure out how to switch over to playing a game and streaming at the same time because I'm bad at this because it's still budget edition. Yeah, I will be streaming some No Man's Sky. I'm actually going to be restarting the game for anyone that would like to see what the actual game is like. I'm going to do that and come hang out. I'm going to stream that for an hour or so, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe 12, maybe 127. Who knows? We'll see. So everyone that came out and hang out and ask questions, thanks. And we'll see you all in the verse.
Thank you all. See you around the verse. Wait, that's not our line.
It's not. Later, everyone.
Inside the verse.
We'll see you somewhere. Bye now.